Okay, so the next day we headed to. Well, actually, what happened was when we were at goodness me, what was it called? Fire out, Little Way. We were at Little Way. One of the waiters, his name's Philip. Great guy, really really good service. He said to us, "Hey man, you need to go check out this other cafe called the Farm Peninsula Cafe in not Nedlands." Whatever, who cares? Farm Peninsula Cafe. And we were like, okay, cool. And he was saying, like, it's this old cottage, they've redone it. And I was like, okay, sure. So we went and checked it out. Really cool. Really cool. Unfortunately, the day that we went there, it was manic. Manic. Madness. So I think a lot of the coffee and the food was, I'll be honest, the food was better than the coffee, but the chick did say that they've got a new barista on, and she kind of drowned a little bit, but still the service was really nice. It was right by the river, really really good atmosphere. Do recommend. So so it was. I was able to speak to the manager, and I did say, hey, listen, like, we've got a coffee shop. Having a look at your setup and all that, I'd recommend that you at least have a look at a couple of these bits of gear. It's not cheap, but this equipment will help you a lot. So she she was really good. So she took some photos, and we had a bit of a chat about the workflow and people, and just business in general. And so she was saying that the guys that owned it, really cool. They've got like a day spa company or something like that, with, from the sounds of things, a couple locations. And they saw that this building was sitting vacant. It was built back in like goodness me. I'm gonna stick my foot in my mouth. Nonetheless, it had been vacant for a while. It had built quite a while ago. And so she was saying these guys saw it sitting there. I thought, it'd be good to do a cafe, and it was their first venture into a hospitality scene, and they've been doing really well. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. And it kind of was like, that's the sort of point that I'd like to be able to get to, is to see that there's a space where we can genuinely create something that people in the community benefit from, and provides opportunity and a place for people to really just experience quality service. And I think there's that metaphor I was talking about a little while ago, and I stand by that, is that hospitality is the art and the decor and the beauty that sits on the walls and in the room that is built by heavy industry and mining and oil and gas and everything else. And without hospitality, without the arts, and without music and film and these sorts of things, like, those are the things that your soul experiences. And without them, it's it's very like post-Soviet. And and it's kind of hard, hey, because like obviously the first thing you want to firstly you need a roof over your head, but then after you've got that, then it's like, man, I want to feel alive again. Like I want to feel things. I think art done right, art and music and poetry and literature and film, and they done well. You feel things. You feel like it stirs emotion in you, and it reminds you of what it is to be a human being and not just be caught up in having to survive. And I feel that stimulating the senses, and not to say that we live a hedonistic lifestyle or anything like that, but I think that it's necessary. There's this great quote, and it says, "Everyone's an artist until the rent's due." And it's usually, well, the context I've heard this mentioned is that you look at really wealthy families and billionaires and their kids just default to things like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is a general rule, but you look at things like the first one that comes to mind is Lance Stroll, right? For those who have seen Drive to Survive, his old man's a billionaire, bought an F1 team, and now he competes in F1. He's not in business; he's a sportsman. You look at David Beckham's son; he's a photographer. You look at all these people. It's like even Jim Carrey. Like Jim Carrey was an actor for so long, and really really dedicated to his craft, and now he's more or less a philosopher and painter. And so you look at this, and all the philosophers out there will probably crucify me for bucketing him in the same category. But and it's I find it really interesting because when there's not the pressures of life, then people just people want to be. They just don't want to have to keep doing all the time, and I find that really interesting to observe. So anyway, I say all that to say that I see like cafes and coffee shops and that pop up like this, and I'm like, yes, like it's soulful. It's done really, really, really well. And it's really cool. So Bet kept giving me shit because I was looking for him, because it's always nice, like if you make a recommendation to someone and then they actually go and do it, it's really nice to have, to know that your perspective and your opinion is valued, so Philip, but we saw it Little Way, who suggested we came there because he was like, actually go work at this other cafe too. You should go check it out. It's really good. And he rocked up there, and I was like, keeping an eye on him. If I had the opportunity, I'd give him the old look, like, hey man, how you doing? Like, and Beck was giving me shit about, like, she's like, oh, you're like a little giddy schoolboy. I was like, fuck it then, I won't. Oh, it's funny. Yeah, so then anyway, after that, so this is on Sunday, we headed to Bardon Park, and we waited for Micky and Damo to get there, and that was kind of nice, and it was really, really nice actually. While we were waiting, and I think as well that the whole Montessori sides of things is you let the kids lead their interests, and so we went down by the water's edge, and they saw, for those who are familiar with the Swan River, jellyfish are like bloody everywhere. So seeing there were jellyfish, and we just walked along the edge of the river, and we counted 22 jellyfish over a period of probably, or a distance of maybe 200 meters. And some were huge, others were tiny, but it was really cool, so it was cool for the kids to see that, and they got so excited. So Mick and Damo rocked up, and we just kicked the footy around and talked business and caught up, and always do quite like Damo's input and Damo's perspective. He's always someone that really values our relationship and connection, and obviously, with respect to being in the fitness industry, there's a very intimate industry, and you obviously get to know your clients really well, and it's been really good communicating. Catching up with him, I guess, when I get to, and then talking with him around, like, relationship and perspective, and you can see that reflected in his business. So yeah, so it's cool, it's good. I do appreciate Damo's input. So yeah, so we kick the footy around, and the kids, they Eliza and Esme usually are mortal enemies, and just forever, just like they'll walk up to each other and just give each other a hiding ace, like girls. But this time was really sweet. Specifically, there was this one moment where Eliza walked up. Oh no, was it Eliza or Esme? I think Eliza was standing there. Esme walked up, and they both had their arms out like this, and they gave each other a huge cuddle. And this is like when they're 2 years old, and this is one of the things I love about kids, is that you've done it right when kids are open, and and they want to communicate with you, and it's like when dogs want to be around you, and when kids want to be around you, you're like, okay, I'm a good human. So no, it was really cool to see that the kids doing that. Pro tip for you: we punted the footy into the pond. The green shit that you see at the bottom of the pond is not the bottom of the pond. I took one step in, and I shit you not, first step, it was like stepping into a cloud, and it was just green shit, and it literally came up to my knee, and it was disgusting. So then we just got big sticks, stood on the other side of the pond, and splashed and splashed and splashed until we pushed the ball to the edge. And then I was so nervous watching Lexi and Tilly pull it out, because I was like, if I have to go in after these kids, like, they're going to freak the fuck out if they fall in there. So, but luckily they didn't. That was a huge bonus for everybody, including myself. So, yeah. After that, we headed to a bookshop if there's one thing I'm very happy to spend liberally with, it's in my kids. It's books. They love books, and I love that they love books, and they go to bed with like a whole collection of books, and they read books, and I love that. I love fostering that in them, and so we went in, we picked some books, and I was actually able to finally find a book by Rupi Kaur, who's if I remember correctly, she's of Middle Eastern descent. Grew up in America, and she's a poet, and yeah, her work's really nice. I actually first saw her work for the introduction to The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and great book, by the way, if you've not read it. Very, very good. And yeah, and my sister-in-law mentioned, she was like, oh, I really love Rupi Kaur's work, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, and I kept that in my mind, and then I finally found it, so I was able to get a little gift, which was quite cool. Yeah, so we headed to, after that, we Beck and I couldn't decide where to go, and ultimately, like as all men know, if you want to have a good time, your wife has a good time, and if your wife doesn't have a good time, you're not having a good time. Hang on a second. No, we're good. I thought baby might have been crying. So, Beck wanted to go try another brewery, and we like Gage Roads. It's in Freo. It's close to where we're staying, relatively speaking. And so, they cater to the kids really well. So we were like, all right, well, we thought, all right, well, let's head to Gage Roads. And no, Beck wanted to go to another one, and then she had a look at their menu, and it was like pub food, just shitty pub food. And so then she was like, oh, okay, well, no, let's go to Gage Roads or whatever. And then I was like, you know what, like if you want to go out, if you want to go for a drive and go to a decent brewery, a new brewery, let's do it then. So we did, and then it was like, oh, you know what, for what it's worth, let's just go to Gage Roads. So we got there, and I was in favour of Gage Roads, and in the end I was just like, whatever you want, I don't give a shit, you pick, a bit like having a bit of a bitch about it. So she she was able to she actually ended up saying to me, she's like, I'm really glad we went to Gage Roads. I was like, okay, good. So that was good. That was really good. And yeah, it had a really really good time there. I told the kids to go order some more fish and chips, and I gave them the cash, and they went up to the bar, and they were really excited to do that, but obviously because it's a bar, I didn't consider this. Irrespective of what you're ordering, they can't serve anyone under 18. And here's this kid who's like 6 years old. He's obviously not going to order a bloody beer. Anyway, so I'm like sitting there watching, and Lex is super excited and goes up there, and the lady's like, hey, I can't serve you. Where's your dad? And in the end, I went up, and she was so gutted that she couldn't order. I was like, oh, whatever. You can go order the ice cream next time, And so that was good. There was this kid. It's fired me up. Tilly comes over to me sobbing, just sobbing. And I'm a big believer, you got to teach your kids, to back themselves and all that sort of thing. I wholeheartedly agree, yes. But also, if anyone lays a hand on my kid, I'm going to give you a flogging or give your old man a flogging. And so I went up to this kid, and I was just like, Tilly pointed him out to me, and I was like, yeah, sweet, yeah, come here. So I went over to him, and she shat bricks. She was like, doesn't want to talk to him. And I said, I was like, you touch my kid? He's like, what? What do you mean, mate? Started speaking Spanish to me and shit. He's like, kid must have been, I don't know, 12 or 13 or whatever. It sounds really tough, eh? Like a man in his 30s going wording up a 13-year-old. First thing I said to him, though, I was like, where's your dad? He's like, I was like, where's your dad? He's like, my dad's not here. And I was like, you touch my kid again, I'll give you a fucking hiding, mate. He's like, and then straight away went and sat down with his dad and didn't play again, which was very good. So, anyway, yeah. After that, went and picked up some shopping for the kids, because Micky was watching the kids the next day. So went and picked up some shopping so that they could do their stuff. And then we went home. We were all pretty knackered. Hey, like the kids slept really well, and yeah, bit of a non-event. It was a Sunday, really. That's the end of my story.